Alrighty, folks, what's going on? This is Matt here for Dark One Linux Tech Gamers, the fusion of Linux technology and gaming, and we are looking at a video that cropped up across my feed. Now, most people know I enjoy listening to and watching and reacting to videos where people talk about their switching to Linux, coming from other things, and why they and the reasons for it. The reasons can be personal, they can be very generic, whatever it is. I always find the story of this switch interesting. And you can say this, the Mac to Windows, Windows to Mac, etc. Like, I just find people making technological jumps from different areas interesting as a whole. But being a Linux user, I'm really more interested in when normal users make that jump. So my question is, this person's wife switched to Linux. Did they force them or did they make it on their own? Let's get into that and see what the reasoning is that they give.
All right, everyone. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'll be interviewing my wife, who recently switched over to Linux. So let's get started. Lauren, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lauren.
What would you say is your technical background? So you're not a programmer or anything like that, right?
No, I'm a nurse, so I
Yeah.
use systems like Epic and GEMS. So I have that background in technology. I did take a computer course in junior high, so I
Yeah.
don't look at the keyboard when I type. But
So you're probably like your average computer user, maybe above average because you've used all that software at work, but you're not
Yeah.
like, you don't work in IT is the point, right?
no,
So
if my computer breaks, I have to ask him how to fix it.
would you say that you use Windows all your life, or have you used Mac? Like, what's your technical life look like?
I mean, since I was born in the
Historically.
90s, Macintosh was the first computer in our home.
Oh, okay.
So I've used Mac more than Windows, but I know both of them.
Yeah, because when we first met, I remember you had a MacBook
I
laptop.
paid for that bad boy myself.
Yeah.
I was very
But-
proud. It was a very high-end moment for a 19-year-old to pay for her own $1,000 laptop.
But more recently, you've been a Windows user, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, what kinds of things do you do normally, like on your computer? Do you play games?
Yes, I play games.
What would you say you do? Just top three, five tasks.
I mean, check email, play my games, look on the internet. That's
Okay.
probably it.
That's good.
Sometimes I watch Netflix if the baby's in there.
So then tell us, how did you switch over to Linux? What made you want to?
All right. So what you just heard right there you heard use case. That is 90% of computer users. And what Linux users tend to don't realize is out of that 90%, that's most users. A means to an end is what technology is. And most of the Linux users won't understand this for some weird reason. So that's 90% of people who use probably computers. There's 10% that are generically the people who are like super interested in it, the forum goers and all that stuff. Linux is like 1% of that. So before people get all understanding and whatnot and are complaining about this, these are the type of users we need, because we live or die, especially in the open source and Linux community, we live or die by people's curiosity. And we have to be better about bringing those curious folks in. And we are terrible at it. We have stupid morons who like to fucking gatekeep. We have stupid fucking morons who are like, blah, blah, blah. And we got certain jackasses like, if you don't do it this way, this is the only right. This is the only right way. Like, it's the elitist jackass shit that goes on is just mind-boggling to me. Now, I will be the first to say, I'm not a spokesman for the Linux community. I'm a terrible spokesperson for the Linux community. Do not, and I emphasize, do not use what I say as a reason or as a good, valid reason to poke at the Linux community. I've just been in it for so goddamn long that I know where their poking points are, because they don't like it when other people actually poke back who are in the same camp, because I advocate much more for the new users than a lot of people will. or the everyday users. I won't say new users. Everyday users are the ones that I advocate for much more than the CLI build it the archway is the only right way, build NixOS crowd. I do not follow into that crowd, nor will I ever. I know how to poke at that crowd, and I know how to poke at a lot of people, to be brutally honest. But what I will say is there are far better communities, there are far better people with better messages and technical approaches to stuff than you will ever get from my content. So I welcome people like this. A lot of the Linux community is slowly getting there, but there's a very loud portion that do not like people like this, do not like people like me, because they want it to gatekeep and keep it the way that they know it. Humans don't like change. It doesn't matter if it's technology, doesn't matter, even in a field that is always fucking changing like technology. There's a reason there's so many goddamn different programming languages. I don't like this, so they build a new one. The old people argue about the new one being crap. That's just the way it goes. But users like her are the ones that I want to bring into the fold, because without that fresh blood, without those folks being curious, we stagnate, we grow old, and we die. And there's nobody there with that curiosity or that willingness to build from that curiosity anymore. So we slowly spiral into a slow spiral of death of a project, of, insert thing here. Not saying Linux is, I'm not being a Lunduke and saying that, oh, Linux is dying. I'm just saying fresh blood is good to have, and fresh perspectives are good to have when it comes from a technical point of view. But we also need to understand that being a fucking toolbox is not the best way to approach bringing in those curious people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of toolboxes that speak a lot in the Linux community. I'm a jackass. I'm not a toolbox.
You want to do it? I'm pretty sure I didn't force you, right? You asked me.
Oh, I think you had it set up, and I asked you what that background was on your computer, and how could I get mine to look like that? And you're like, oh, do you want to use this new software too? And I was like, okay, sure. Let's just take a second and install all that.
No, I'm pretty sure you expressed a lot of interest, right? I told you about like the privacy aspects and like.
Well, after you
Microsoft's
told me all the
collecting your
privacy
data.
aspect, and I already knew that, Big Brother Google's watching, but like the average person, some people just like don't know about the other options, so.
Right. Okay, so I
This kind of ties back into the prior point. People not knowing the other options. We suck at open source marketing. We suck marketing projects to people, because we sell them as projects instead of products. You have to sell. It's like when you go for a job interview. You have to sell yourself like a whore sometimes. And what I mean is, on your resume, your achievements, accomplishments, and all that stuff, goals, etc., responsibilities, you have to talk those up in situations and what you do and all that stuff. You have to sell yourself to those companies, etc. That's what I mean by, whore, show yourself to a company. Not the Brian Lunduke way of showing or whoring yourself just to make money. So what they're talking about, though, is we just need to make the options more available and better known. And ironically, the only ones making those options available and better known are not any of the distro makers. Well, one of them, the pseudo distro maker. Even the commercial ones, Red Hat, the Red Hat's focused on the enterprise, Canonical, all those guys. When it comes to consumer focused shit, nobody does good marketing. Google does, because they have Chrome and Android, which are Linux based, and they're in a way flavored Linux distros, regardless of whether or not people want to call them Linux distros. But the only one that's making like a consumer grade presented to the consumer product and OS that is strictly Linux is actually Valve. Valve does all the marketing and all that stuff, and they're the only ones really putting any fucking effort into the consumer end of desktop Linux operating systems to the consumer.
I helped you install it. So tell us, what are you using? You're using Linux, but what distribution is it? Do you know any of that, or are you just kind of a happy user?
You know that.
Okay, no, I know it. So
know.
I installed Debian 12 for her because I thought it would be super stable and wouldn't give us any issues. And then I also installed KDE because it's very similar to Windows, and since you were using Windows, it seemed like a pretty natural fit. So yeah, tell us, what was your experience switching over?
Cool. I take no issue with people. The one difference that I would probably placate here is that he did the work. So, and this is what I mean by marketing. He did the install, he did KDE, he made those technical choices, but this is where I talk about customizing the experience based on the user. So you're a Windows user, probably KDE. Stability, give it, if that's what you need, or if for whatever reason, he took those into consideration. Now, I'm not sure if those are his preferred distros and desktop and all that stuff. I don't know anything about this guy's personal Linux setups and stuff. I just know if I'm hoping that he's, from what it sounds like, taking those into account of making the distro for the choices based on the user's needs and not what he prefers, which is another big thing the fucking Linux community is god fucking awful about.
Over and using it?
I mean, it felt pretty much like using Windows. I don't think that it was very difficult to learn. But again, I feel like I pick up things pretty easily, so that's a factor. But at the same time, it looks exactly like Windows. It functions exactly like Windows. So if you have been using at least Windows, 10? I would say 10.
I think you were on 10. No, you were on 11.
I was on 11, but I think 10 and 11 are pretty much the same.
They are very similar.
So if you have at least Windows 10, then you can use the basic Debian.
So have you run into any problems? Going back to everything you say, or you said you do with the computer every day, have you been able to do all those things as you were before?
I can do everything. And maybe the one thing is that it doesn't have enough of a notification to update.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't update until it's 157 updates.
That's something we can easily fix. I could work with you on that, just to do it automatically. But yeah, that's very true.
They update really.
Yes, there is no patch Tuesday. And I will say that the updates process is much faster on Linux than it is on Windows. Ever. And I'm saying this as someone who owns Microsoft hardware. Their update process is a fucking abysmal. Anyway. But yeah, this is what I mean. This isn't somebody who's super technical. They use computers as a tool to get a job done. And this is the crowd, but it has a lean of curiosity and stuff. Obviously, the husband or boyfriend or whatever is selling, Linux as a solution and talking about the privacy and all that stuff. And I'm not a big fan of the privacy argument and all that stuff. What I am a fan of is keeping the marketing talk, or evangelizing for those that want the religious philosophical bullshit lean for Linux and the sell point control, so people understand the difference. Because we can talk about it's free software, they equate free with shitty, limiting, hack around software because of where they're coming from. We can talk Libre, whatever, Libre software. They aren't going to care because it's fucking a philosophical debate. People just want the right tool for the job to get it done. When it comes to making the recommendations, this is what I call a lot of the people in the Linux community toolboxes. They like to be a tool on how they sell things and force feed recommendations based on what they prefer as opposed to what the user needs. So I've liked his approach so far because from what it seems like he is, besides selling the privacy stuff, he seems to have at least be customizing the experience and kind of poking and helping along the way when it's needed. Like, the notifications thing, that's just generally should be going into whatever package manager you're using. KDE, so it would be Discover. So it's going into Discover and telling it to notify you more often when there's updates and stuff, like small things like that. So anyway, let's keep going.
Really fast, but it's a lot in the queue, and my computer's just sitting there like,
What if you could get paid to learn how to code? This is Caleb. Caleb was once a burnt out English.
But wouldn't you say that's kind of a pro? Well, maybe not for the average user, but Windows like kind of bugs you about those and gets in your way, right? About updates.
well,
Forces you to restart when you don't want to.
forces you to restart. Well, it's not as bad as Mac. So Mac will like literally just do it in the background, even if you don't want to. And I don't know if you guys know this, but if you're an Apple user and you have an Apple phone, they will spam you with updates until it kills your phone so that you have to buy the next generation. I had an 3G Apple phone for years until they finally started doing this spamming of updates, and it killed my phone and I couldn't use it anymore because it just died.
Yeah, that's well documented. I think there was actually a lawsuit.
Yeah.
But
and that's off topic,
we have
but
to stay on track.
sorry.
No, it's good.
I'm just gearing the people towards the free market.
So, okay, so you're able to do everything you normally do. You haven't had like any major issues. You would prefer that it handled the updates automatically, which is definitely something we can do. There are some distros that do that, but Debian, with Debian you have to kind of configure it. It's not that hard though. I can help you. But overall though, you're pretty satisfied, would you say? Like so you're a big gamer, right? So tell us about your experience gaming.
Yeah, so I play.
Actually, I'd say you're more of a gamer than I am.
Yes.
Like much more.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I play a lot of online games that require a lot of power in the computer and good quality software for it to work, and it runs just fine.
You haven't had any issues with your performance or even just getting the games to work and installed?
Nope.
So what do you play? Tell
Windows
us.
actually used to drop my game quite frequently.
You'd have crashes?
I'd have crashes.
Was that with Final Fantasy?
That was
14?
Yes, Final Fantasy 14.
I've actually read
Online.
people say that actually runs better
But
in
Linux, I haven't had any crashes. And the only reason that if it were to crash is because like the server is overloaded because of the new expansion that came out, but it's not because of my computer.
Yeah, that's not related to your local computer.
Yeah.
So this is the experiences we need to hear. One thing I am, this is more of a production thing. Leading too much, just ask the question and let them speak. He tends to kind of lead the conversation, which, maybe that's for some people they're not comfortable on camera and all that kind of stuff. And I get that. But, Final Fantasy 14, I know it just had a massive overhaul. So again, use case. That's all I can really say. Don't know the hardware they're using, etc. So I can't speak to that.
So you play Final Fantasy 14 online. That's probably your biggest game that you play. And then what else do you play? Elden Ring?
Well, the Elden Ring hasn't been installed on that computer, but I'm sure it would run just fine.
Yeah, but you have been playing it. And then what else have you played on that one in particular?
I haven't tried out my Sims game on it.
Yeah.
But maybe one day. Oh, I played this game. What is it called? It's like Palia, but it's not. It's something on Steam. I forget what it's called.
So for the most part, you've played Final Fantasy, and that's generally what you play anyways, right? That's your favorite game.
Yeah, it's the only one I have time for.
You haven't had any problems with it. It was like seamless to install, and then didn't you figure out how to install mods? Like I didn't even need to help you.
I did. I went. Oh my gosh, it took forever. So I had to find this guy's article because I found this other guy's video that showed like the really technical way to install it, and I was like, oh no, how to do that. And I think you were working or something, and then I found this article that it basically explained to the layman's person what that guy's video was doing. And so I went in, I think it was through Wine, and looked for the attachment. It's like Dynamode attachment or something.
Yeah, the Dynamode mod manager.
Yeah, and then you go in, you have to actually go into the game and search for the mod that you want, which is pretty cool because then it just installs it right there.
Isn't it actually, like, the user interface is better than the mod manager you're using on Windows?
It's much better than the mod manager. For Windows, it's called like FFX IV Tools, and you have to do it outside the game, and then every single update you have to go back into the mod manager and do it yourself, whereas the Dynamode one will tell you when there's an update in the game, and you just click this link that it gives you in chat, and it takes you to the Dynamode mod manager, and you just hit update plugins, and it updates the mod. So
nice. And then I think you also...
So something I wanted to mention, this super technical video. This is what I'm talking about. When our content in general gives the person a deer in the headlights look because of the technical nature of it, you're speaking to the wrong fucking audience. Especially if that's what your demo and your audience you want to have, cool. That's awesome, amazing. Do you? But we talk about wanting to, oh, it's not that hard. Don't be afraid of the CLI and blah, 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 blah. When you make something so complicated that the person literally is like, yeah, nah, might be you, bro. When the common equation is you, it's probably, and it's different when you take you out of it, it's probably you're probably the equation commonality that needs to change. So what I'm saying is we don't need to always be super uber technical. Like, it's cool to have that option available if we need it. It shouldn't be the default for 90% of people. And we give the 10% option, the people that are in the 10% that need that option, we give it to the 90% who fucking don't.
You also figured out how to install the Dawntrail, the newest expansion for Final Fantasy XIV. That was coming out, and they had like a benchmark that they only released for Windows, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you were like bugging me. You're like, oh my god, I want to try this, help me. And then like I was busy, I was working, so I couldn't help her until after work. And like when I went to go check on her, she had already figured it out, and she was already running the benchmark. And
because I'm a very impatient person.
Yeah, but I thought that was really impressive because you basically use like a .yaml file, which is like a text configuration file, and you use that and you installed it through Lutris and everything. Yeah. And it was pretty easy, right?
Yeah, you had to read about on this Reddit this time, because a lot of people apparently use Linux for Final Fantasy now.
Yeah, there's a big community. It's like a sub-community almost.
And there's a whole Reddit about like if you're installing mods or if you were trying to do the benchmark for the game. And at first mine wouldn't let me, it would just let me watch the benchmark, because you're supposed to also be able to create a character save profile that you can put actually into the game, which I never used because they give a free Fantasia anyways. But I had to figure out not only how to install it, but then I had to go back and figure out how to actually be able to do the character creation. So I had to go back onto the same Reddit page because everybody else was having the same problem, thankfully. And I figured that out as well, too. You figured it out,
got it working.
Yeah.
And it performed extremely well. Didn't you have like maximum pointage?
Well, when I put it on to run it at maximum capacity, it had a really good score. It was like extremely high.
So, switching over from gaming, what other cool things or like things that really stick out to you that you've liked with Linux?
Then
we set up like backup for your photos.
Oh yeah, you set up this whole like Nextcloud server, which was pretty cool. Instantly streams the photos and contacts and all that stuff to my computer.
Yeah, so now you don't have to worry about having Google Cloud backup or paying for that, right? For your photo storage.
No. And then and we
can share them with each other.
Right.
Free.
And then the Jellyfin app was also.
Well,
that was really cool.
Not related to your own Linux computer, but yeah. Well, I was gonna do a video on that one because it is really cool.
Oops,
but you do like that as a user. You watch our own home.
Yes,
media
and
on
we
Jellyfin.
need to finish putting the rest of them on there, especially Friends. When I'm not playing online gaming or taking care of the baby, I'm watching Friends.
Okay. That's pretty much all I wanted to ask. Do you have any like closing thoughts or other things that have stood out to you or that have been like pleasant or even tedious about the transition?
There's nothing tedious about it. I also like the fact that you can change your background pretty easily.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay for themes. Like sometimes with Windows, they'll charge you for different themes. I've noticed now.
Well, you definitely have to buy a license to use dark mode for sure. But so you find it pretty customizable, KDE. Like you've enjoyed playing around with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Different things you can do to make it your own, really.
Yeah. And I like my version, I guess, even though you switch back and forth all the time with yours. I come in here
I'm a distro
and he's
hopper.
got a different one every single time. It's like it's not even full 24 hours and this man has another one set up on his computer.
Let's end on a positive note. Any final thoughts? If not, that's okay.
I don't have any final
Okay.
thoughts.
Well, thanks for watching, everyone. This was a special report interview with my wife who switched to Linux. I know that's a rarity in this world, but I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
All right. So, see, this is the reason I enjoy these videos is because we get a less technical perspective, more just day in, day out user. Now, certain things she does benefit from, aka having like kind of a technical, like in-house support system. There is that. But the fact that she was willing to, figure out and install her mods and all that stuff. So there's that curiosity level. And those are the folks that we need to bring in. Those are the people that we need to hook. And so we can continue to build on the shoulders of giants and all this other stuff and have these projects continually have fresh blood come into them and new ideas and new perspectives and how things work and all the other stuff. I think that is the key takeaway from this, and that not every fucking thing has to be for the 10%. I like having stuff for the people that are in the 10%, but use their computer like the 90%. I'm going to toot my own horn. I can do the 10% and the shit that they do for the most part, but I use my computer like the 90% do. It's a merging of the fucking perspectives. And a lot of the times you have this one and this one, and they won't see outside the bubble. They think this perspective is stupid and they think this perspective is stupid. You have to see both of them. But the one thing that it requires is both of these to get their head out of their ass. And sometimes a lot of them don't. So what's your take? Who have you gotten to switch to Linux that's a normal user or has become a super technical user? You guys know what to do. Comment section and all that fun stuff. Comment, rate, subscribe, all that fun jazz. And Indiegogo, Patreon, and all that crap is down in the description. And I'll catch you guys on the flip. Peace.